You had about 10 or 15 people that signed up for it. But welcome, everybody. I'm Michael, the founder and president of 4Clicks. On these spotlights, these are tips that we do usually every month. We do record those, so if you want some information on that, if you go to the events page and you go to the Spotlight Archives, you'll be able to see some previous ones that have been saved. Not every one of them have been recorded, but you'll be able to see view here for recording and be able to take a look at this. But we really appreciate the time you spent here today with us. Happy New Year's to everybody. And Eric, what we'll do is we'll get started with what's called the estimate comparison. Now, there's a couple of things that can happen, Eric, on an estimate comparison. If you think about it, you could be using it just for a new estimator in your office. So you've got a new individual. They've really not used RS Means anymore. Maybe they came from the shops or they just came to you out of college or something. And you could allow them to build an estimate, build your own estimate, compare two together, and kind of get with them and maybe teach them some of the items that they forgot. And what's happened with that as well is in the past, people have taken a look at that and they figured out, you know what, I just learned something from the new person. So it's kind of a peer review, and it's a way that you can compare an estimate within your own office. The other, obviously, doing an estimate certainly is going to be through the 4Clicks itself, working with the contractor, inputting their estimate, and doing what's called a side-by-side comparison and being able to do the tech eval. Now, Eric, you remember we went over that, right?
Yes.
Have you been using that?
I haven't had an opportunity yet.
Okay. So what I'm doing now is just kind of sharing my desktop, going inside the software right here. And what I've got is I've got a project that's already been built. So at this point in time, through the training information we have, you could have imported that project, made sure the totaling components were right, made sure the pricing was right, but there's definitely two estimates here that we want to compare. So the very first thing we need to do is we need to tag both of those estimates. Now, there's also opportunities that a contractor and or an owner could build multiple estimates. So you might want to merge those together because, unfortunately, our current compare, the way it's meant for estimate to estimate, only allows you to compare one estimate with another. But there's a really neat thing I'm going to show you in a minute, and that is you can actually compare one estimate in one project with one estimate in another project. And where I think I'd use that, Eric, if I was looking at a bathroom remodel that I did now, and my boss is like, why am I spending so much more money for this than I did the last bathroom remodel? Or vice versa. I don't have to bring that other estimate into my project. I can actually compare this estimate that I did just this morning with an estimate maybe I did 1 or 2 years ago and find out that, oh, you know, this is what we did differently or we left out or different things like that. Now that both of the estimates are tagged, I go to the Reports button and I go to what's called Print Estimates. That, of course, brings up what's called our Estimate Report Options. And here, what we want to do is we want to choose what's called Estimate Comparison. I like to go out to Adobe PDF. That way I've got something I can kind of handwritten and mark up and make some notes on and things like that instead of a piece of paper. Down at the bottom of the window, it's important to point out right here what's called Estimates to Compare. This is two things can happen. Number one, we always want the owner's estimate to be in the first position, which is called A. The only reason it wouldn't be is that estimate was created last within the project. But honestly, where project managers have actually moved an estimate from one project to another, but the contractor's estimate was imported first, so you might need to go ahead and do what's called the little switch here. And you'll notice if I click on this little icon right here, it just reverses A to B and B to A. Same estimate to compare section, that gives me the ability to use that pull down, select from any other project that's out there, and select that estimate so that what I'm able to do is compare two estimates side by side that might not even be in the same project. Now when I click OK, it's going to go ahead and it's going to build my PDF report, and so I can open it, open the folder, copy to a clipboard, send via the email. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that and give you an idea of what we have right here. First thing we have is Comparison A, Renovate Shop. Then we have Comparison B, which is done by the contractor. And then we have the actual lining up of the line items. So what we do is we place Comparison A in the front line. We go ahead and we look at anything that A and B match. And if they do, we don't have a variance and we don't have to worry about showing you anything. If they don't match, like I'm showing you right here on the first item for steel roofing, then what we're going to show you is, in this particular situation, while both the owner and the contractor had a quantity of 250, you can see that the owner had 26 gauge, contractor had 22 gauge, and it's giving us the deltas and the variance of the difference, and as well as the dollars. Another thing that's happening below that line item is it's giving us the rich detail. So I'll show you up here on item number 1 for the actual getting rid of the wall-based cabinets per linear foot. We can see the owner's estimate, renovate shop, had 20, and contractor had 20. And if there's any differences, it would identify that as well. We'll write down here. The owner had 3,500, contractor had 5,000. The goal of this is to very quickly, Eric, allow you to match up the two estimates, because you can remember in the old days when we had to do that by paper.
Oh, yeah.
I think what that does is that puts the owner in a disadvantage. I think that's good for anybody, because the owner is a buyer at a minimum. Have to have a fiduciary responsibility where they're reviewing this estimate and agreeing or disagreeing. I know from meeting you, if there was an item that was left out of the contractor's estimate, you probably let them know that.
Yep.
And if there's an item in the estimate that's not supposed to be there, you're going to let them know. And if there's an item that's in the estimate that you're not sure about, you're going to ask them a question. That's why we have negotiations. But what we want to do is we want to let people build estimates, but then we want people to get together, negotiate those estimates, and award delivery orders, because we can estimate all we want. The only way it's a successful SABRE program or JOC program is when we actually start the work, and that can't happen until you agree to a number. So the estimate comparison is meant to allow you to rapidly be able to review an estimate by your contractor, side comparisons, and of course the next step would be what's called the technical evaluation. Now, Eric, have you ever heard of what's called a MAC contract?
Yes.
Well, MAC contract, Eric, is on a little bit larger of a base than Niagara Falls. Nothing against Niagara Falls, and you still could do a MAC contract. The thought of a MAC contract is, what if you had a set, and then you've heard of in Florida, AFC or AFCISA? They use rather large Air Force wide single or multiple award contracts. That's where multiple contractors can possibly bid on the same project, come out, give you an estimate, and you still have to compare them. You know why? Because if you forget something and you award it, they're going to probably get you with change orders. We've got some people now utilizing the software. And so this current version that we're about to release with the 2012, you cannot compare multiple estimates. So we've made a first stab at it, and our thought with it is we want to go ahead and we want to let you at the division level immediately identify by maybe the dollars as well as the count of line items, what the contractor's charging for overhead and profit, so that you could, in this situation here where we've got an owner's estimate that's about $111,000 in one estimate, we also have 3 contractors in here submitting proposals. One of those contractors has built 3 estimates, the other 2 contractors built 1. So again, what do I want to do? I want to come into the program, open up my project, and tag all of the estimates. Different here is we're not going to go to print estimates, we're going to go to what's called multiple estimate comparison. What that's going to do, that's going to bring me into a really neat program. I assume what you could do here is you could actually import some estimates from another project. You could do a lot of different comparisons if you want. This is really meant more for the owner. So the first thing I need to do right here is I need to go ahead and make sure that my, why isn't that set like that?
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
Bill Carberry. We couldn't get on your
Yeah, Bill, so we're taping it right now. I've got Eric actually on from Niagara Falls, and he's kind of going through it too. The good news is once we get this taped, we're going to release that, I think, tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And you'd be able to review the whole thing. And right now where we are, Bill, is we're actually doing the MAC comparison. I just did the SABRE comparison, which is usually your owner's estimate, the IGE against the contractor's estimate. And I'll tell you the neat thing. You've got the software installed in your office, so what's really neat is you and your COs and CORs could be using E4 Clicks to evaluate the IGE against the contractor's estimate.
Yeah, we've been using that somewhat, but the people who were doing it before are now gone.
Are now gone?
And now Glenn Johnson going to be working it.
Well, you know what? Let's take this as a challenge to see, with both watching this as well as our tech support and our training documents, to see if Glenn's going to be able to get comfortable with this really quick, okay? And I'll be glad to let you follow up with Amy, who's support at 4clicks.com, to make sure that this is some value, because we don't do these just for us. We do these for you who use the software every day.
Okay, so tomorrow morning, or you say you're going to have, how are we going to be able to access that tomorrow?
If you go to our website, go to 4Clicks, you go to resources and what's called events. I believe, Peter, at the end of this, we could send out an email to William.
Yes, we'll be to do that. We can send out email.
We'll take them to what's called our Spotlight archive page, and in that will be this archive.
Good.
Okay?
Sure, we'll in.
Oh, thank you very much, and Happy New Year's wishes to you.
Okay.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up the owners in the first place, and then I've got the other contractors right here, and now I'm ready to compare. Now, this compare does not go to a PDF. It automatically goes to an Excel. The reason it goes to an Excel is there's no way, if we had a MAC contract or multiple award contract. I mean, I think, Bruce, we saw a MAC contract the other day with 18 contractors. So
Yes.
in Excel, I could have 18 columns. So what we're going to see right here, I'm just going to kind of get this set up just for a second, is what you're able to do is the estimate comparison. I've got the owners column right here, followed by what's called Building Brothers, Free Builders, and We Can Build It. And what I think is kind of neat here is we started off doing this at Buckley Air Force Base that has a rather large, it's called the Front Range Sabre contract. They have 3 Sabre contractors. So they absolutely need to be able to do a government IGE and evaluate it against 3 Sabres. So our first stab at it was at what we call the division level, the buyout level, the front page. But what you'll be able to see is we've got all the divisions, because you know what, Bill, we don't want to have a contractor kind of sneak something by us and win the contract with the lowest bid and back and hit you for change orders. So what's neat about this is you can immediately identify that he or she might have forgot a particular item, a particular CLIN, an ad, or a section inside the estimate. And that's what I'm presenting right here, is it's very quickly letting me know that most of the contractors pretty much have the same exact quantities. There's a little bit different in the price, and it can let you know here that one guy's got a kind of low Division 9, another one has a low Division 9, and one has a little bit higher of a Division 9. And immediately it's showing you some facts and figures right here. At the end, we give an exact count of all the items that are used, what the price and non-price is, all the coefficients, and let you know what the lowest amount is. Now, does that mean that you automatically award it to the $116,000? Probably not. But, Eric, I think what it would let you do is it would let you focus on that one first and then take a look at the other 2 to determine, do they really have all the scoping involved in their estimate. What I'm going to do with this after this is we want to have a second tab in here, and we'll work with you guys on that allows you to actually see the line items so we can start to get to the nuts and bolts. So when it does it for our WebEx, it makes it a little difficult. I don't know if there's any other participants that were able to come in that can see it right now. But we want to just go ahead and open it up for any questions. If you don't have any, we certainly appreciate the time that you spent with us today on the Spotlight. And again, that will be available on our archive page, and we'll make sure we shoot out an email to everybody so that they can download that and take a look at that. And please let us know what you think about these, and thanks for spending time with us today.
Hey, Mike.